Yeah, so this is an example of, I believe it was spike or point O in the Google Trends. So what I did is I went into Google, I cleared everything as I told you, made sure I was logged out of Google, and here you can see I typed in Johnny Depp, I hit the search, and then what I did is went to this tool area, which pulls a drop-down area for the date, and I set the date to match the Google Trends spike of November of 2004. Then we had these top 3 websites that came up. I downloaded those websites and then I analyzed them.
So did you undertake this analysis for each of the 17 points on the prior slide that we looked at?
Yes, correct.
And what did you do once you had your web page results, such as on this demonstrative?
Do you mean when I reviewed each web page?
Yes.
Yeah, so what I was looking for is, were these web pages or articles, did they have anything to do with the alleged abuse? Did they have anything to do with his alcohol, drug use? Did they have anything to do with his work ethic? So I basically, tried to understand, the content and of each website or article.
Did you look at all of the results that turned up when you ran these historical searches?
I only reviewed the top 3.
Why did you choose the top 3?
So I reviewed the top 3 because research shows that about 50 to 75% of the people only click on the top 3. So I wanted to get the majority of the searches.
Tom, I think we can take that down for now. Thank you. What did you determine about the results that you found for the period prior to Ms. Heard's first allegations of abuse?
So I determined that, Mr. Depp was not portrayed in any negative connotation. The web results were about his life and his career, his acting, his, pictures of him, relationships he was in, just pretty normal stuff.
And what did you determine about the top results after Ms. Heard's initial allegations in 2016 and then the republication in the op-ed in 2018?
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Banya, what did you find about the results of the top web pages that you determined after Ms. Heard's initial allegations and then again after the publication of the op-ed?
Yeah, so after the initial allegations in 2016, I found that the majority of them had to do with the alleged abuse. And then after I realized that the web pages that were dealing with the alleged abuse then started talking about his drinking and drinking and doing drugs. So it appeared to me that they became negative after 2016, but then after 2018, they even included, the alleged abuse, but also included the drinking and drug use.
Did you form any opinions about the results that didn't refer to the allegations of abuse?
That didn't? I formed an opinion that, I'm not following your question, I'm sorry.
That's all right, we can move on. Did any of the results that you analyzed refer to Mr. Depp's work ethic?
No.
Did you form any overall opinions about the results in the web pages that you looked at following Ms. Heard's accusations of abuse?
Yes, as I stated, prior to 2016, the web pages were just about his daily life and career. After the 2016 marker point, they tended to include, the majority of them included, the allegations of abuse. And then after the 2018 op-ed, the ones that included the allegations of abuse were also talking about drinking and drug use.
What was your overall view of the connotation of those results then?
Yeah, so Mr. Depp was portrayed in a negative connotation after the 2016 allegations of abuse, and even more so after the 2018.
You mentioned you also looked at Q scores as part of your analysis. How are Q scores calculated?
Yeah, so Q-scores, it's a survey of 1,800 people that happens twice a year. What they do is it's internet-based, and they measure how well a celebrity or a brand is known, how much they're liked, and how much they're disliked. Q-scores, include sports figures, celebrities, even cartoon characters, brands. So that's how the scoring system works.
Do you have a demonstrative that reflects the Q-score analysis that you prepared?
Yes.
Okay. Tom, could we have demonstrative C, please? And Mr. Vanya, what does this tell us about the Q-score analysis that you completed?
Yeah, so what this is saying, again, these spikes are the Google trends that you've already seen, but what I've overlaid are his Q-scores shown in the red, green, and purple area. And as you recall, I wanted to find out his Q-score prior to the allegations of abuse in 2016, where he had a positive Q-score of 11 and a negative Q-score, a positive Q-score of 35 and a negative Q-score of 11. And then I looked at the Q-scores after, and then after the op-ed.
And what did you determine about those Q-scores?
Yeah, so what you can see here, his positive Q-score, which is represented in red, was a 35, and that was prior to the alleged abuse and the restraining order. Then after that, his Q-score, positive Q-score, dropped to a 31. And what that's saying is less people liked him after the date of the 2016 alleged abuse. And then his negative Q-score went up from an 11 to a 16, which is telling you that more people disliked him during that time frame.
And what did you find about the final Q-scores that you looked at for Mr. Depp?
Yeah, then you can see the Q-score C that I have there in purple. His positive Q-score went from a 31 to a 29. His negative Q-score went from a 16 to a 15. So now his positive Q-score dropped again from a 31 to a 29, meaning less people had a positive impression of Mr. Depp. And then his negative Q-score did go from a 16 to a 15, so not as many people disliked Johnny during that time frame.
What are your overall opinions about the Q-scores that you analyzed?
So my overall opinions are, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to analyze the Q-scores during this snapshot of time. I wanted to understand what they were before, during, and after the op-ed. And what this tells me is his positive Q-score went from a 35 to a 29, and then his negative went from an 11 to a 15. So what the Q-scores is telling me is the public perception of Mr. Depp has been damaged. They like him less and they dislike him more.